Hello and welcome back to Sharks Happen. On today's show we're going to go over a couple swimmers, we're going to go over a surfer attack, a spear fisherman, and we're going to finish out this show once again. We're going to go with what you've been eating, shark. Hope you stick around, it's going to be a great show. Okay, we're going to start out the show. We're going to head over to Hyena Beach Park, which is over in Kauai, Hawaii. And the date on this attack is May 24th of 1981. Roger Garletts, he is out doing some scuba diving. He's in some murky water. He's in 60 to 80 feet deep water and he disappears. They don't ever recover his body, but they do recover some of his gear. His wetsuit was shark shredded, very shredded up when they recovered that, and they're presuming that is a fatality from a shark attack. And I'm going to agree. I'm going to put down as an attack, a fatality, a predation. We just don't know what kind of shark. Probably a tiger shark, probably large enough for our books. That's what it's going to go in, and that's how it's going to go. That's the story of Roger Garletts, and we'll move on. We're going to head over to Brant Island. Actually, to the Brant Island Shoal is where the attack happened, and that is in North Carolina. The date is August 15th of 1993. Petra Rijoes, she is 19 years old, and she is out at about 10 o'clock in the morning. She's being pulled on an inner tube by a 35-foot sailboat. So she's being pulled on the inner tube, and it sounds like that's when she's attacked, is when she's moving through the water. And she ends up getting in, and she has to have 300 stitches, over 300 stitches. And the reason I think it was moving, and it sounds like that's what they're saying in these clips that I read, is that the cut goes from like her abdomen, goes from her stomach, and it goes all the way across into her leg. It's like the same cut that goes all the way through there. Like a shark came up and bit, but she was pulled through the teeth is what it appears from what I hear. A crazy attack. She ends up surviving the thing, but she has to go in and get some surgery done. She had, shark bite to the abdomen, and that doesn't happen often. Was going through the shark attack H. David Baldridge stats on some of the attacks, and he went into the percentage of the times that it bites arms and things like that. It bites your arms, your legs, your buttocks, your thighs, your knees. All that gets bitten, most of the time. And then you have your head, and I believe it is your head and your groin. Those two are 2.5%. So back during Baldridge's day, looking at 1,000 attacks, 25 were on the head and the groin. And then the next was the abdomen area and then your chest. So these sharks are, of course, grabbing onto your extremities mostly. The least you're getting bit is in the head and in the groin, and then the second least is in the shoulders and the chest area, and then your abdomen. But those legs, the arms, those are getting bit, like 40% of the time. So it was crazy seeing those stats on there. I hadn't thought about going through and seeing what's getting bit like that. But a good thing she survives being bitten in the stomach like that. That's just got to be crazy. And like I said, I can't tell for sure, but by the definition of this wound, it sounds like she was moving when she was attacked. And they have had bull sharks in the sound. Sounds like it's pretty much more or less somewhat brackish water. They say they find bulls in there, 6-foot bulls, which is important because larger bull sharks, if it is brackish, they don't like brackish water. The youngsters can live in the brackish water, and they're actually born in brackish water. The bigger they get, the more dehydrated they get with the lack of salt. So the bigger guys like to stay out in the full salt. But if it's brackish water, that would make sense that, there's bull sharks in there, and 6-footers will be in there with less than the 35,000 parts per trillion salinity that ocean water is. So that's the attack on Petra Rijoes. An attack, not an attempt to predate. We don't know what size shark. We're going to put this in our books, probably large enough that it's going to go into the books. And we're just not sure, but it sounds like that was moving as she was attacked. And we've gone through that with a couple of these people that were on the stand-up paddleboard. The one guy was kind of in a turn when the tiger shark kind of cut him off and met him and bit him in the leg or bit him in the foot, knocking him off of his board. So we have had these attacks happen as your allure being dragged through the water. That's pretty much probably what it is for a shark. And you know, they could be playing, they could be doing whatever, but you get hit by those teeth and it's going to be a problem, especially if you're moving like that, because if you are getting hit by the teeth, instead of just getting bit, you're going to be raked, which it sounds like that's what happened. We'll move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to Margate, and that's in South Africa. The date on this attack is Christmas Eve, December 24th, 1960. Serame Petra Sithole. He is 25 years old. He is a black male, and he's out doing some swimming. He's out swimming at Margate, and Margate has enclosures to keep the bathers safe. He's just outside this enclosure, and he's swimming, and a shark comes up, and they say that it grabbed him and kind of lifted him up out of the water, and he ends up being helped out of the water. He lost both of his legs. He lost one leg all the way up at his thigh, at his groin, and the other leg, his left leg up to his thigh, I believe it's his right leg, just above the knee, and it had some bone protruding out from it sounds like the backside, where the skin was torn off. He ends up passing away. Some say it was before he got out of the water. Others say that it was when he was on his way in. But it sounds like before he even hit the beach, he had passed away from his wounds. He also had a cut, a bad bite to his abdomen that they said was about, I believe it was 17 centimeters long and about 7 centimeters wide, a big opening gash to his stomach. So he was bit multiple times by the shark, took both of his legs, bit him in the stomach at one point, and they end up getting him out of the water, and he ends up passing away, like I said, from the wounds. He also had a shattered femur in the leg where it bit him off up at the hip, and it shattered the bone complete, and they got two tooth fragments from it, and they held on to those tooth fragments, and later on it was discovered, they thought that it was a bull shark that did this, and these serrated teeth turned out to be, they do believe it's from a great white shark that got a hold of Serame and took both of his legs and cost him his life. It would go down as an attack, an attempt to predate by probably a great white shark with the teeth, so we just don't know what size that shark was. The sad thing is, and the only reason I bring up that he's black, because I haven't seen anything on this, but I just went through my going through and looking up the archives on this. It popped up in, it's H. David Baldrige. They ended up having a meeting about sharks, and this whole article is about H. David Baldrige and what he's saying about what's going on with the sharks and how to prevent the attacks and what's working, what's not. At the very end of that, it gets into the only thing I haven't seen about this attack yet, and it's the new part, and it says that he was outside of the barrier because at the time the barrier was for whites only. So this young man ends up losing his life as he's swimming, they said, within sight of that barrier. So he probably would have been inside of the barrier had he been allowed to be inside the barrier. I'd never heard of that, and that's just kind of crazy that ended up happening like that. So like I said, I normally don't bring up if they're white or if they're black. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to the shark. But here it does matter because the shark had an opportunity at him because he obviously was black. So that's our attack on Mr. Sithole, and we will move on. Okay, now we're going to head over to Casino Beach. That is over in Florida. The date on this attack, September 14th of 2013. Trevor Kalck. He is 21 years old. He and two other friends ended up going to the beach, and they got there around 3 o'clock and started swimming out. Now they're swimming out about 150 yards. By the time they get out there, it's about 3:30, about 150 yards from shore. And they're in between these two sandbars, so they're in 8 to 10 feet deep water. And there's 3 of them there, and one of them sees a fin, shark fin, and it sounds like they know it was a shark fin, because it says that they kind of stopped moving and just sat there vertical in the water. And as they're doing this, suddenly Trevor was hit hard in the right foot, just very hard. Seconds later, he felt contact to his left foot, but that wasn't a bite. Sounds like he got bumped the second time. First time he got bitten. Now, when he was bitten, like I said, they held themselves vertically in the water, but they were kind of doing a backstroke trying to get back to land. So they were on their way back to the beach doing a backstroke, trying to do as minimal movement as possible, and the shark bit his foot, which wasn't moving because he was holding that still. He gets in, gets his foot helped. It wasn't a major bite. They don't know what it was. They don't even know what size it could be. You know, it could be a spinner, a black tip, you know, just about anything that's out there in the water. Your bull shark, your tiger shark, your stray great white in the area. You never know what was there. Lemon shark, a sandbar shark, a gray nurse. It's a pick'em type thing that bit down on his foot. So again, they talk about how it's just so the pain of either the bite or the hit. Usually it's the hit, but a lot of times it's the bite. Like in our last episode with the gentleman saying that, the young man saying that it felt like somebody took cement and just dropped it on his foot. That's when he got bit in the foot when he was out fishing along the same coast down in Florida. So that's the attack on Trevor Kalck. An attack, not an attempt to predate, by a shark. We're going to say this thing is 6 foot or larger, and we're going to put him in the stats as an attack, not an attempt to predate. Don't know what type of shark. Okay, now we head over to Queensberry Bay. That is in Eastern Cape Province, South Africa. And the date is June 16th of 2013. Kevin Bracey, he and a friend David, they had gone out. They went out to do some surfing. It's in the morning, and the two are on their boards, and they're paddling out. And Dave's friend, Dave Boatwright, is Kevin Bracey's friend. Dave said that they're paddling out, and all of a sudden he looks over at Kevin, and after he sees a swirl in the water, Kevin suddenly shouts that he's been bitten by a shark. So both of them are like completely shocked that this happened. Kevin was on his board, and suddenly the shark came up and bit on his board and grabbed onto the fin. So it's got 2 long fins, it looks like, on the 2 sides of the board. The shark took the one fin completely off of the board, but that's where it bit down on his leg. Now, it ended up giving him just some minor lacerations to his knee, and it seems to have saved his leg altogether. He gets in with some minor wounds where a 20 centimeter by about 17 centimeter chunk of his board was gone, pretty much where his leg was. So that fin did probably stop that shark from coming down and doing major damage on his leg. He and his buddy could not believe it. They got in, and he just had to get bandaged up. It doesn't even sound like he went in for stitches on this one. So Kevin Bracey, he gets out with one of the luckiest attacks. As you're laying on your board and the shark ends up biting you. Yeah, he was bleeding, but I mean, bleeding is a lot better than what it could have been, especially if he didn't have that fin. And I mean, it looks like the fin is a good 4 or 5 inches high off the board. They show the back of the board, and the one fin's still there. The other fin's gone, and it shows a shark bite to the board there. So that's our attack on Kevin Bracey, an attack, not an attempt to predate. Big enough shark for our stats. We just don't know what kind. He never got a good look at the shark. Okay, now we're going to head over to Meow Island, which is off Yeppoon, and that is in Queensland, Australia, and the date is January 2nd of 2016. Allan, Countryman, 31 years old. He is out doing some spearfishing. It's about 11:30 in the morning. He's in about 3 meters deep water, somewhere around 10 feet deep water, 20 yards from his boat. No telling how the distance from shore, but he's just 20 yards from his boat, 10 feet deep water, and he spears himself a trout. Now, he's trying to bring the trout in, but coming after the trout, or either coming after the trout or going away from the shark that's chasing them, a 3 meter up to 3-meter shark, so about 8 to 10 foot shark, is following these mackerel. The mackerel are coming towards Allan Countryman and his group and his trout, and the shark that's coming along too comes up and it bites on Allan's right hand, right forearm and wrist, grabs onto him, his hand basically. Now the shark's got a hold of him and he starts beating on the shark, starts punching it, and he punches it repeatedly, and on one of the punches with his left arm the shark grabs onto that one. So now he's been bitten in both of his arms, and after the second bite the shark releases him and goes on its way. Sounds like it didn't even grab his trout, but after the attack he had to swim the 20 yards back to the boat, which he did on his own. Bitten in both hands, Allan swam back to the boat, gets up onto the boat. There's a gentleman, fisherman that was passing by that was able to give him first aid and give him proper care to his wounds before he got in. No telling of any damage to any tendons or arteries. It sounds like he just had to be sewed up, and hopefully he was good to go after that. Like I said, up to a 3-meter shark, so you're talking about a 10-foot shark, somewhere in that range, that was following some fish that, he thinks the fish was after his trout. I think the fish was after something to give the shark as options. Give it some choice. Right now the shark's going to eat the mackerel, but the mackerel sees this trout and then a man there. Smart fish is going to swim over there and see if they can't use that as like fighter planes do, using that flak when they let that go. They can make the bombs go off on other things while they're over there. That's probably what these fish are doing, just like the turtles we've gone over. Just like I think that other animals go ahead and do the same thing. It's like the gentleman that was in the water and that fish. I don't know if it was a fish or what it was, but there was a hammerhead, I think it was, chasing after it and got real close to the guy and turned like a beeline to go away. I'm thinking whatever that was following came over to that guy, just giving it an option, give it other options, just like the board with that YBS Youngbloods, I think it is, and the guy falls into the water after the shark chases that turtle around his board a couple times and finally bites his board, frustrated that it's in his way. That's what this reminds me of. Don't know what type of shark, and that's how that goes down. Okay, now we're going to finish off our unprovoked attacks. We're going to go 50 miles off Port La Libertad, which is off of El Salvador. And the date on this attack is August 6th of 1950. Robert Bottini, he is 27 years old, and he is out on a charter boat. He's out pole fishing for tuna. So they're out fishing for them tuna, and he hooks a shark. And I've hooked a shark fishing for tuna before. And, the shark just sat there like I thought I had a car, an automobile down there. It just couldn't move it. So if it wanted to do what it does to him, it could have done it to me. He's fighting the shark, a fight ensues, and the shark pulls him overboard. And he gets down into the water, and the shark turns around and comes and bites him in the thigh. Coppelson reported that it was 20 inches by 10 inches, this bite. So pretty far in, pretty deep, and then wide. And he's bitten in the leg, and he's brought back up onto this. Like I said, it's a charter boat, so he's brought back up on the charter boat, and they take him in to get him help. He ends up surviving the attack. They give him the care he needs on his leg, but he files suit. I had seen, and you'll see in the clip, he ended up filing suit against the charter boat that took him out there, and he ended up getting bit by a shark when a shark pulled him off of the boat. So I don't know what came of that. Like I said, I wouldn't think anything would come of it. You're out there fishing on somebody's boat, and you hooked a fish. It pulled you off the boat. I don't know how that's the people's fault. So I don't think that would go anywhere. But that's the attack on Robert Bottini. Just a strange one, and another fishing deal where the people's dry up on a boat, and all of a sudden they end up in the water. Luckily, this didn't turn into a fatality like a couple of the other ones that we've gone over with tuna fishing. I think both the other ones that were both fatal were tuna also. So that's the attack on Robert Bottini. Attack, not an attempt to predate, not sure what kind of shark, and we'll move on to the rest of the show with what you've been eating. Okay, now we're going to finish off the show here real quick. Not a lot to go over with the shark stuff as far as anything that's gone on with them lately, but this is my my mammoth book of shark attacks. This is the bigger one. I got two of them. I got the smaller one. I don't know if they have the same things in them or not. But this is the what you've been eating shark I was going to go over for the last episode. And I got to it and I read the name in it and I was like, I can't do this one. This guy is in my next show, which is this show. So this, what you've been eating shark, we covered in this show. Unbelievable that it happens that way, but this is the first time it happened. But where was this? Mr. Dave Gristle. This is in 1960. Mr. Dave Gristle, and I know this is actually, I believe, 10 days after the gentleman was attacked. Serame Sithole, Petra Sithole, that we covered, that was in Margate in this show, that had both of his legs taken. This gentleman that I just mentioned, about 10 days later, hooked himself a shark, and they said this was one of the biggest sharks they've seen in those waters. And they pull the shark up and they open it up and it's got human remains in it. It has 9 bones in it, along with the kneecap, and that has some flesh on it still. So they go ahead and they realize that this is the bones from the legs from Sithole, who was attacked 9 days prior. So 9 days after Sithole is attacked, outside the barrier over there in Margate, where the shark grabbed him by the legs and just took the one at the hip, took the other one below the knee, and then gave him a nice gash in his stomach. They find the parts inside of the shark that they ended up catching. So this shark, they do say what size it was. They just don't say, I don't believe they even say what kind of shark it was. 5 of the teeth from the shark's bottom jaw were broken off. So it was a major bite, and that's 5 teeth probably from shattering that femur. So it not only shattered the femur in Mr. Sithole, but it broke 5 of the lower teeth off when it did it. And I'm just trying to see if they say what kind of shark it was. He caught the shark at 4 a.m. on Friday. It was cut for weighing, then noticed the bones in its stomach. But I don't see what kind of shark it was. Yeah, but when they had the shark there, they opened it up, they found the bones, and the shark was still out in the public because people came and started taking souvenirs, and the next day almost the whole shark was gone. So people came and started cutting pieces off the shark to keep it. So the shark that ended up eating Mr. Sithole's legs, shattering that femur, and that's probably why there's 9 bones in there, probably a bunch of fragments too. That shark's caught, it's brought in, and it ends up being pieced out by people that want a souvenir from the shark. So that's the story, the complete story of Mr. Sithole, and you know, just a crazy deal to where, you know, it's like the shark arm murder mystery where those people dangling, feeding those body parts to the sharks, feeds it to a small shark, eaten by a larger shark, that pretty much keeps that shark alive when it's caught, because the smaller shark seems to have shielded the rope in the arm that was going to make the larger shark sick that threw it up. All that could have been different had that shark, first smaller shark, not eaten it, and that larger shark just ate the arm. It could have gotten sick and puked it up. But no, it ate the smaller shark, and then it got caught, and then days later it ended up throwing up that arm. Just weird things like that go ahead and happen. So that's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you'll be back in a few more days. But remember, if you go into that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.